I recently had a call with one of my cousins on my Bulgarian side because I wanted to find out who my grandfather was. You see, my grandfather passed away when I was much younger, and I couldn't quite collect the little bits of information. And, there was something in me. Maybe it's because I've had a daughter soon, and that sense of fatherhood or the divine masculine piece was missing. And I'm sat here just after Christmas Day, and I thought I'd go to the park and record this really raw and unedited and share this experience to see if you would resonate or find something in it, because it was quite a fascinating story for me. Because um, in Bulgaria, where my mother's from originally, she had moved to Cyprus many years ago. Her parents, my grandparents, basically came from the Soviet Union. There was the Second World War, so there was a very different upbringing to the one that I was used to, right? And my cousins sort of shared that my grandfather um, was living life at an intersection that was quite interesting, and it drew my attention because he said that he was an engineer during work hours, right? He used to engineer the mines and worked underground, and it was quite a harsh job in his early days, but was also a professional violinist. So he was living at this intersection of engineer and artist or creative, and in his time, and I found that to basically link with my own heritage or my own sort of understanding of what brought me here, because um, my degree was in jazz guitar performance. I went to California, and I did a lot of jazz guitar, but also realized that even growing up, I was a multi-instrumentalist. Like, I played guitar, I played the piano, I played the bass, I sang. I remember my university recitals where I played the piano for a bunch of other people, even though I was a lazy student. Theoretically speaking, that had the word multi in it, right? Or other examples of friends I know who do mixed martial arts. They always tell me, put somebody in a ring who knows mixed martial arts, or somebody who does jujitsu, the person who knows the mixed martial arts, obviously depending on, I'm completely in the unknown with this domain, will show the other person a good time. So there's other sort of musings that I hear where I know people who do triathlons, and they're not just good at running, but they're good at that intersection of running, swimming, and cycling, for example. And they embrace being good at all of that stuff. So in my world now, when I looked at it, I always found it to be a little confusing, because people, or my own coaches or mentors, said the more you niche down, the better this becomes. But to me, it was always being good at multiple things, right? So what I realized, and I've made a career out of being very good at the intersection of offers, funnels, and writing. Offers being very business oriented or marketing oriented, funnels being very tech oriented. And I had a web development agency for about 9 years and scaled it to 500K a year, and then sort of came out of that and became a CEO. So delegated on all the positions that eventually I didn't do, and I got stuck in meetings and got very bored and folded it. But the point is, where all those misalignments felt true, because I wasn't actually embracing what I was called to do. So hearing that story about my grandfather really warmed my heart and soul, because I realized he had passed on this divine gift of intersection, right? And to me, the pattern was always there, it feels like, and it was inherited rather than chosen, because I figured things out. It felt like I inherited that part from somebody I didn't get to live a lot. Why? And upon reflection, I sort of thought to myself, niche down never quite sat right with me. I'm not sort of avoiding that focus. I'm just honoring the blueprint that it took 32 years for me to come to understand. Because when I think of my grandfather, and that conversation was quite deep, right? He didn't pick the violin or engineering. He did both of them very well. So I realized I didn't pick offers or content. I get to be. I don't need to become, right, in order to make that happen. So the same was true when I started pondering. I ran a half marathon today with my dog, and I always run without any devices. I want to be clean from all things digital and just allow my mind to think. And it pulled me towards this video because in the middle of the run I also said people on LinkedIn, where I have a bigger following, were like, he's a coach, he's a marketer, he's a consultant, he's my mentor, and I always got the labels where, again, I receive them with a lot of love and praise and gratitude from all my students. The thing I realized though is that, coaching, for example, is pushing somebody to reveal the answers they have within, or consulting is giving someone the answers and solving it with them. And for the longest time I felt like a very good consultant, because I've had so many clients and so many experiences who learned coaching along the way. But my biggest strength was actually being able to hold space for people to discover what they already are or who they already are. So to me, I found these containers, these true transformations, were being able to get someone to slow down in a world obsessed with speed, right? And to me, the best way I could articulate that is guidance. I simply guide, I hold space, and I allow somebody to reveal what they already know, to find themselves in that transformative container by slowing down, rather than talk about these crazy KPIs and goals and money and all the stuff that I too have done, right? And the thing that I realized, even with my old self, and there's an author called Austin Kleon who has a book called Steal Like an Artist, that everybody steals like an artist to some extent, right? So as a musician, if I listen to a lot of the Beatles and then I listen to a lot of Black Sabbath, then the music that I would write was at this intersection of the Beatles and Black Sabbath, for example. Or when I studied jazz and I would look at these greats, you start almost sounding a little bit like them. And in the coaching world and consulting world that we're in, I believe that there's a lot of copycats, and I myself took models and took concepts of my own mentors, and there was always something that didn't quite sit right, because people said, I came to make money and you taught me how to find myself, and I would hear these things and think that is true guidance. For me, where you're able to intersect spirituality and the spiritual realm, the inner work and the energetic consciousness and all of that with business and get results, where whenever I would go into masterminds and people would pull out numbers like 300k a month and 400 and 600 and I make $1 million a month and I run ads and it's time to scale, and I always felt a little bit like a misfit in there, because to me it was like, yeah, I've had success with numbers and had record months, but what was more fascinating was the psyche, the spirit, the way you show up or behave, rather than the actual money. And it wasn't until this year and having the baby allowed me to slow down and actually realize what I truly enjoyed doing. And 2026 is really exciting for me, because I'm going to lead with all of this stuff and hold more space, have more intimate containers, and nothing of the essence of it has changed, but it just clicked in my mind after speaking to my cousin about my grandfather. Because my grandfather built systems to read faster. My cousin sort of said he would teach him his own little language, and this is pre-GPT, pre-technology. This was ages ago, probably 40 years ago. My cousin's 45 now, so when he was a kid and he got to live granddad, he used to say he used to create his own language and abbreviate it and also highlight it. So when you had a book or when you had to study for uni, my cousin said he used to show him the way to underline certain words. So in a passage of 3,000 words, you do 20 little underlines and get conceptually all that you needed without having to take the fluff with you. So that was really, really cool for me to see. So you read faster. And he said when he was doing his engineering work, he had his own little systems that allowed him to be free to then go and play the violin, because working as a civil engineer in Bulgaria paid him well, but he had the love for the art and creation. So he built systems to play more, to create more, to embrace more of the artist. And it occurred to me, because I was always at this intersection of offers and funnels, but what I truly identified with is writing. But I built the system of one offer, one post, and one email a day, or rather one funnel and one offer, to enable me to then write a post a day or an email a day. And it was such a beautiful thing, because I realized I used my engineering background. After studying jazz, I did a lot of software engineering at the agency, and we served clients and had vast amounts of success. And through learning how to code, I brought that part of my own identity, which now feels inherited from granddad. And I did that in Modern Maker, my business that I now operate in alone, to hold or create space to actually live, to actually write. And without the funnel, without the offer component, I wouldn't be able to have that freedom that I now have today to wake up and shoot videos like these, or write my daily email and my daily post, and allow for true creativity to come from within. So it feels like a wholesome moment where the engineer serves the artist, or how can I put it in a different way? Like, the system serves the human being, right? Where everybody's using AI and trying to opt for speed and get, scalability. And I always look at AI as a tool that's going to do all the stuff that I don't want to do, so I can then go and sit in a park and talk and create and write and express myself authentically. So my invitation to you is sort of to think about what intersection maybe you live in, right? And stop trying to become something. Be what you already are. And for me, the message that I'm taking is I just need to be. I've already become. I've already got all the knowledge that I need. All I need to do is just embrace the present moment and share that experience with myself, with my family, with people. And creating Modern Maker, I always knew this and carried it with me, but was always at this intersection. So people would say, I never heard you're just another business coach. I heard you were different because, or Jacob taught me X and Y, whereas the textbook business coach would teach you, whatever that domain does. So to some extent that made me really happy. But having this phone call on a quest to define purpose, to look more inwards, was so helpful in a way, because we already have all our surroundings and we have access to all this information outside of the internet and things. And people say I want FU money, and I truly believe it's all about FU relationships and understanding yourself and your energy and the way you show up. So I wanted to just leave you with that today. in the messy middle, raw. And if you enjoyed this, if anything resonated, please comment down below. I would love to hear your own experience or your own intersection, because I'm fascinated by this space. So thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.